And now I would like to introduce our CEO, Sam Seams, to make some comments.
Good morning. Good to see everybody. Once again, thanks for coming out, getting together, sharing ideas, and hopefully implementing some. I want to start by going through and thanking our supporters. These are companies that do business with your association, put money up to be associated with you, and without them, it'd be tougher for your association to work on a daily basis. But those are Athletic Net, Balfour, Bynum Sports Surfacing, Boost Treadmills, Clell Wade Coaches Directory, Konica USA, Ecor, Elliptico, Garmin, Geo Surfaces, Gill Athletics, Lightspeed Lift, Maxwell Medals and Awards, MF Athletic, Mondo, On Track and Field, Plubber, RelayBatons.com, Recordtan, runnerspace, Smart Tracks, the U.S. Marine Corps, UCS, UCS Spirit, and VS. And I'd like to give a special thanks to MF Athletic for supplying equipment at last night's spy coaching sessions, which was the first time that we've done that, but they supplied all that equipment. So it takes, as usual, a village, I guess it is, to raise a family, and these folks are part of our family. Please visit them as they're here this week. Something I'd like to start out with, I guess there's been a lot of confusion. I always say confusion is caused by somebody who wants to confuse people. This subject there should have been no confusion over. So I'm going to try to make the clearest point that I can. It's been mentioned 2 or 3 times that we'd create a partnership with Athletic Net, but please take note. If you're an NCAA D1, D2, D3 institution, I think this applies to NAIAs also, is nothing has changed about the NCAA requirement to upload your results to TFERS at the conclusion of the meet that you host. Nothing has changed about that. Also, there is nothing else connected to that. If you want to use somebody to do your meet, a timer, you want to use somebody to do your entries, whatever you want to do, that's your decision. But nothing has changed about the NCAA requirement or how it's done. I just want to make that real clear. I don't think that it's very complicated. Unfortunately, in the last week, we've seen a group intervene and have closed our coaches out of quite a bit of that access that they had before to complete some functions associated with that, and that's a battle we're just going to have to take up and hold people accountable for. But once again, nothing has changed from an NCAA standpoint. The next item I want to touch on, get a little more positive here, is on September 14th this last year, we inducted the association's 2nd Collegiate Track and Field and Cross Country Athlete Hall of Fame class. And since most of you weren't there, some were here, I'd like to take a moment and share a few of the highlights from that event with you.
here are tonight's inductees. Tonight's host for the evening, Neil Everett.
Run faster, jump higher.
I got to tell you, these ladies and gentlemen, they weren't just great athletes. They were fabulous athletes. And as we got to spend time with them at the induction this year, also learned they're great human beings, represent our sport extremely well. The next induction, our third class, even though we've been doing this for 100+ years, but our third class will go in on June the 3rd this coming year. So it's a great event. Encourage you to come to it. This is going to be just a little bit dry, but it's extremely important. So on Tuesday of last week, a letter was sent out to NCAA institutions and to those associated like ourselves at the with the NCAA by the new NCAA president, Charlie Baker. I think hopefully most of you have heard something about this correspondence that went out. Some of you have probably read some of it, probably a few. I know this group isn't big on reading, but perhaps a few of you read the whole thing. But I want to make sure that this group hears what his message was. This is his first message across the board. So bear with me and listen. As you know, we have been reviewing the current state of college athletics for the past several months. During this review, several things have become clear. For hundreds of thousands of young people, and for tens of millions over time, college sports are a pathway to a college degree, an invaluable learning experience, and a major element in the plan that successfully launches them into adulthood. Billions of dollars are invested annually by colleges and universities in their athletics programs, their student athletes support systems, and student athletes. College sports alone deliver $4 billion in scholarships to hundreds of thousands of young people yearly. Graduation rates for student athletes have risen dramatically over the past 15 years. So much that across every demographic, student athletes graduate at a higher rate than their peers who are not student athletes. More is being done to build on this success. Starting next year, all Division I schools will be required to guarantee the scholarships they offer to student athletes, whether they play their sport or not. Starting next year, all Division I schools will be required to provide up to 10 years of ongoing tuition assistance to scholarship athletes until they complete their degrees. Starting next year, all Division I schools will be required to provide mental health services to student athletes consistent with the latest best practices. Starting next year, student athletes across all three divisions will have access to a nationwide injury insurance program that will provide 2 years of primary and secondary health insurance coverage if they get injured playing a sport for their school and are still in active treatment when they graduate or their eligibility is expired. Looking ahead, financial and operational differences among colleges and universities across all three divisions, and even within Division I, among the colleges and universities in Division I, are significant and poised to grow. Across Division I, schools spend between $5 million and $250 million annually on their athletics programs. 59 Division I schools spend over $100 million annually on their athletic program. Another 32 Division I schools spend over $50 million annually on their athletics program. An additional 259 Division I schools spend less than $50 million, and of those, 144 Division I schools spend less than $25 million on their athletics program. Surprisingly, the schools that spend the most on college athletics rely on virtually no student fees to support their programs. On average, 1.8% of a A5, Autonomy 5, athletics budget is paid for by student fees, while 18% of the budgets for the remainder of Division I schools are funded by student fees. 98% of Division II and Division III schools spend less than $20 million annually on their athletics programs. Like most of their Division I colleagues, these schools make an investment in sports. And by doing so, they make an investment in the educational experience of their student athletes. No one could possibly conclude that most of these schools make money on college athletics. Despite the wide disparity in revenues and spending, the lessons over 500,000 student athletes learn by participating in intercollegiate athletics, and undeniably similar, student athletes learn how to put their own interests aside in pursuit of a higher and more challenging team-based objective. They learn how to get back up when they get knocked down. They learn how to push through adversity to achieve personal and team-based goals and objectives. They learn how to master their craft, one that often requires hours and hours of teaching, coaching, and practice. They learn how to win with grace and lose with dignity. They learn the power and importance of process in both directions. Success is a process, and so is failure. They also learn how to lean on their teammates and coaches in personal pursuits of excellence in the classroom and on the field of play. However, the growing financial gap between the highest resource colleges and universities and other schools in Division I has created a new series of challenges. The challenges are competitive as well as financial and are complicated further by the intersection of name, image, and likeness opportunities for student athletes and the arrival of the transfer portal. The contextual environment is equally challenging. As the courts and other public entities continue to debate reform measures that in many cases would seriously damage parts or all of college athletics. Therefore, it is time for us, the NCAA, to offer our own forward-looking framework. This framework must sustain the best elements of the student-athlete experience for all student athletes, build on the financial and organizational investments that have positively changed the trajectory of women's sports, and enhance the athletic and academic experience for student athletes who attend the highest resource colleges and universities. To deliver on this framework, we need to make several fundamental changes. First, we should make it possible for all Division I colleges and universities to offer student athletes any level of enhanced educational benefits they deem appropriate. Second, rules should change for any Division I school at their choice to enter into name, image, and likeness licensing opportunities with their student athletes. These two changes will enhance the financial opportunities available to all Division I student athletes. They will also help level what is fast becoming a very unlevel playing field between men and women, student athletes, because schools will be required to abide by existing gender equity regulations as they make investments in their athletics programs. Third, A subdivision comprised of institutions with the highest resources to invest in their student athletes should be required to do two things. When within the framework of Title IX, invest at least $30,000 per year into an enhanced educational trust fund for at least half of the institution's eligible student athletes. Commit to work with their peer institutions in this subdivision to create rules that may differ from the rules in place for the rest of Division I. Those rules could include a wide range of policies, such as scholarship commitment, roster size, recruitment, transfers, or NIL. This is Charlie Baker, President, I look forward to hearing from members and student athletes as we move ahead. But moving ahead in this direction has several benefits. First, it significantly enhances the NCAA's ability to provide world-class educational and athletics experiences to the most elite student athletes. Second, it enables the continued investment in women's sports and women's student athletes at a level that compares with future investments in men's sports. Third, it gives the educational institutions within the most visibility, Third, it gives the educational institutions the most visibility, the most financial resources, and the biggest brands an opportunity to choose to operate with a different set of rules that more accurately reflect their scale and their operating model. Fourth, it gives colleges and universities that are not sure about which direction they should move in an opportunity to do more for their student athletes than they do now, without necessarily having to perform at the financial levels required to join the subdivision. Fifth, it gives other schools in Division I the ability to do whatever might make sense for them and for their student athletes within a more permissive, more supportive framework for student athletes than the one they operate in now. Sixth, it provides student athletes in the most competitive and well-resourced part of Division I with significant educational benefits that they can use to launch themselves once they enter graduate or reach the end of their athletics eligibility. And it does so in a way that respects and compiles within the rules concerning governing gender equity. Seventh, it gives the schools most impacted by collectives, the transfer portal, and NIL, the opportunity to create rules, programming, and resources that are in the best interest of the vast majority of their student athletes instead of just a few. Eighth, it maintains the existing NCAA national championship model across existing Division I sports, except FBS football, which continues to operate under the rubric of the college football playoff. Ninth, it provides an operating model the NCAA and its member institutions can incorporate into ongoing discussions with Congress about the future of college athletics. Finally, it kickstarts a long overdue conversation among the membership that focuses on the differences that exist between schools, conferences, and divisions, and how to create more permissive and flexible rules across the NCAA that put student athletes first. Colleges and universities need to be more flexible, and the NCAA needs to be more flexible too. It also gives the NCAA a chance to propose a better way to support student athletes at the highest revenue schools by providing significant financial support to student athletes in revenue positive and non-revenue sports alike. We look forward to continuing this conversation. If you have feedback on this proposal, please email project project, project D1 at nca.org or provide comments. I read that letter because it's very significant. Two, you need to know it because that is the mindset that is going on. And thirdly, I would say that if that correspondence doesn't say there's going to be changes, I don't know what else does. That was followed by President Baker's comments a couple of days later at a public conference where he said, "We've historically been reactive to changing a future course for college athletics. We need to really step up and own this and show people that we can actually govern college athletics in reorganizing. It needs to be done differently than it was done in the past." Quote, "Get stuff done." You can take that for what it's worth. I take especially the comment "get stuff done" as a call to action. As a lot, if not all of you know, I've talked about change ever since I've been in this position, and you're probably tired of hearing it, and as long as I'm in this position, you're going to get more tired because I'm not going to drop it. But I will say and I've probably had more than one failure since I've been in this job, but the one definite failure that I've had since I've been in this position is to get our coaching membership to understand, and Carol touched on this, change is going to happen. You either adapt or you get left behind. We as a sport, I'm not talking about your training. God knows you've adapted. How you communicate, God knows you've adapted. I'm talking about our sport. Our sport of track and field and cross country. We haven't adapted to change, to new times, to new ways to do things. I know it's hard. Change is hard. We don't like to change. But you have to if you're going to stay in the game. I don't know. So I'd like to see the hands of everybody who's probably used a typewriter this morning. Huh? Anybody? I can't quite see. I'm doubting if there's many. They're gone. That was a major part of communication and corresponding for decades. It's gone. The typewriter, the people who own those companies who produce them, so on and so forth, they did not adapt. They went away. It's not good. It's not a good place. It's not a good place to be. I'm kind of going to leave it there. We got to change. This is a great sport we have. Sports. There's two of them: track and field and cross country. I don't have enough. I don't know how to say this because I'm not an elegant speaker. We need to make sure they're around. The kids are doing their part. You go to a meet. Caroline mentioned this. We're having new collegiate records. We're having records broken that were 40, 50 years old. The kids are doing things now that we as adults have not been able to screw it up so much that they still can't rise to the top. You know, we need to perform like the student athletes perform. And something that someone told me this morning, I'd never heard this before, but it resonated with me, and I only have one other thing to say after that. We shouldn't use students to win games. We should use games to use students. I'd never thought about that, but man, that hit me. That's what it's about. We use track and field to win the students over, to help them. So I'll end by saying this. We should and need to protect and advance our sports to ensure that the opportunities that our sports today provide for students and for youth are still in place, so they're there for the future students, the future youth, and well after all of us are dead and gone. Have a good week, and thanks for listening to me. Carol, would you come back up and close out?
Okay, Sam, I fully agree. I think that's important. As I said earlier, adapt or die. A couple words that I noticed in that letter, I did read it last week myself, were the NCAA president, flexible. Flexible. Something that's flexible bends. I think we figure out which direction they're going and then figure out how we can use that to put our sport forward. That's all we got. So let's work on that starting now. Thank you, Sam. As we close, I have a couple of reminders to share. To begin, I want to inform you of our future convention schedule. No one cheer, because Denver's a great place, although I don't live here. Next year, we will return to Florida and the Orlando Grand Lakes Resort, December 16th to the 19th. Please be sure to visit our supporters at the exhibit booths. Please reciprocate their support by visiting and purchasing their products. They are a key element to the association's financial stability. Thank you. And one final thing. Lunch today is sponsored by Bynum Sports Surfacing and will be served in the Aurora Ballroom. That's on the second floor, other side, correct, next floor up, which is upstairs on the second floor past the coffee bar. When leaving, attendants will direct you to the ballroom. And with that, the 2023 opening session is now dismissed. Thank you for coming.
In case people got up.
Gotcha. Yeah.